This conference will now be recorded.
You guys were able to log in to this?
Yeah, we could.
Okay. All right. So let me just walk you through with the UI of this wherever we are logged in, right? This is the Appian trial version. So you guys able to hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is what your URL is. And if you go and click over this, this is the navigation tab. You'll find this different options. So taking this tempo, all right? Okay. So this open a different tab, I mean different page. So what is tempo? And so any processes, I told you right earlier that BPM help us to automate the process. So any processes, if we want to trigger, we trigger from this tempo, and tempo is the interface, or this is the URL that every business will have. I mean your customers. So your customers goes and trigger your request through this tempo page, and this is what they see. This is the interface of Appian, which is uh, design specialist for businesses, for business folks to access their applications. There might be some sort of dummy applications created by Appian. So let me just click any one of them. I'll not complete it, I'll just show you the UI. You can see the screen. Now you guys can see the screen, right? Okay. So you see this action. This is the action tab. And this you see are the different actions which we will design in future for ourselves. This is already done by Appian. For us, it's a kind of a demo as because this is the trial version. But whenever you click on action, you are starting your own process, whatever we have designed. So this is the first UI of your process. Create a product. You want to create some product. And this is the interface. You need to type product name. This is asterisk. This is the required field description. This is the date field. You can upload a file here, right? This is some sort of field to enter the values, drop down, right? So the text fields. So I just wanted to show you this type of UI, and because when we are designing, the UI will look like this. You can still go and change this fields and all, different layouts will be there that we'll cover later, but this is what the UI looks like. And just feel free with the familiar with the term. Don't worry, even though you don't understand what is actions and all. It's just you need to go to the tempo page whenever you wanted to trigger your designed stuff. And whenever you want to trigger, you need to go to tempo, and whenever you go to tempo, this page will load it, and you need to go to the actions. So these are the dummy actions, but when we design application, you will have your own actions to trigger. Okay, so coming to this page, application. So now what we need to do here, everyone has the access, right? Are you able to log in now? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You guys are in front of a laptop, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you
So
want us to log in now?
yeah, I wanted to log in now or maybe later if you guys want to. I'll just show you that you want to create a new application. So just see the steps, okay? So what I'm doing is you guys need to do the same for yourself. So you already have the access, you wanted to practice and all, right? So just click on this new applications. This is create from scratch and give the application. I mean, just give your name. All right. So each one of you need to create application and give your name so that you know which applications belongs to you. All right. So now if I want to go out, I want to click here. Back to you guys are getting this, right? I'm just walking through with the UI, so when you log in, it's easy for you to understand. All right. So when you click that, it came here. Okay. So open this. And earlier we were doing practice, right, on this Appian functions directly. You see this, all this practice we were doing. That's correct, right? So now instead of executing the thing here, we can just copy paste and execute the things into our environment directly. Okay. So if we want to execute it, we want to write it somewhere, right? So for that, to write all the logics and expression, we have one thing called expression rule. So I'll click on this. I'll create a new expression rule. Okay, you can give any name what you want. Just make sure that you follow the camel case. You know what is camel case? Camel case means the first character would be caps and rest of them will be in lowercase. Okay, so I just created one expression, and any expression you create, you need to store it somewhere, right? So here you need to select a folder where you want to create. As this is new trial version, you need to create your own folder. Okay, so I have created a new folder under example. Okay, this is the folder name. So you also need to do the same. So create a new expression rule, mark at create from scratch, name your expression. I'm just giving expression test expression. You can give with your test expression with your name, and here will be the folder name. This is the parent folder name. I mean the folder which you are creating will go store where under. So it will come under Appian practice. Okay, so I'm giving my name. Okay, expressions. So you guys also give your name to this so that it helps to understand. I'll mark it as create. Okay, so our expression got created. See the name you see, right? Test expression, and your folder is also there into this application. So you guys understood, right? What you guys need to do. First, you need to create an application and then create your own expression rule and store it into the new folder you need to create for yourself, and the parent folder will be Appian practice. Everyone got it right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So after this, you guys can do the same thing, or if you want to do it now, it's up to you. You can do it now, and if you feel any issues and all, you can just let me know. All right. So here is the UI where we write the expression. Instead of writing here, earlier we did not have access, so we are just going through this. But anytime, so this is what the UI. So whenever you go and work into any organizations, you'll get the UIs like design, designers and all. So we are into this design, and this is our expression rule where we'll write all the expressions, and this expression rules we can use it anywhere. Once you write it, you can have this code anywhere. So let me just show you how does it work, and then we'll skip to other functions what we need to cover. Let me take something basic. Happened. All right. So the same thing we executed into other, right? So see this. This is what we have written. Here you need to click to test your expression, whatever it is there. Test rule. It gave you the data. 10, 20, 30, 99. And what is the function? Append. Append is the function which append to a list of integer. Earlier it was having 3, now it became 4. So it does the same thing what we have checking here so far. But this is what the documentation part, and this is your actual part where we are gonna write it. And any assignments, whatever I'll give you, that assignments you need to go and execute here. I mean, any expression you need to write, you just need to create new expression rule and go and write it. Okay. So any questions, guys, for this?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. And any questions for the functions, which I did ask you guys to go through, and any issues with that, we can discuss and then I can start. Or everything is good. Monica, Rachel, everything is good with the functions?
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
think
sir.
everything is fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we did cover most of the thing. See, we covered array, we covered conversions, we covered, yes. We covered date and time. This will cover later. This is not required now. Load in with information is also, I'll cover few of the thing into this because everything is not required. Interface, obviously. This is also I'll cover later part because this is somewhat the advanced functions. I mean, in last I'll cover this. And mathematical is also not needed much. Mathematical, I guess you guys can go by your own because we have been a ample of things to cover up. It's just the normal mathematical expressions like even, factorial, integer, log, and all, mod and all. We don't use this anymore. Like there's no need requirement to use any mathematical functions. And let's jump to this category people because this is what really needed. Okay, so let me click this. Okay, so what are the functions? People functions. So these functions we normally use just to check, I mean, who are the users, and that users is part of which group. So let me start with the first very basic one. This is the logged in user function. See, I'm executing here. I'm executing test rule. It gave, you guys can see the screen.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you see the output, right? It's your username by which we logged in. Okay. And what is the type? The type is user. You see the email address, but the email address was a username and it's a user, right? A user who is accessing the site. So it's a user type and your username. So logged in user, what does it does? It's give you who is logged in. So as of now, even though you log in by, so everyone has their own different credentials, right? As of now, we are just using this for you, all four of you. You'll get the same result. But when you go in future, you will work, you have your own credentials. I mean, with your name, Vidya@ something.com, Rachel@ something.com. So something like will be there. And whenever you go and check your logged in user, it will give you your own name because you are the person who is logged in and executing these functions. Okay. So these functions will help you to identify in future who is the logged in person, and according to that, we can write a logic. Let's say if this is a person who is logged in, do this, else do this, something like this. All right, so this was the first functions logged in user, and these are the convergence functions. Okay, let me jump to user. See, user, there's one more function. And just one more thing, if you wanted to, ideally you can do copy paste also, but when you have some sort of good grip into this, you want to type it, see, you can just type like this. It will give you what are the things which are available. You can see this. So I want user functions. I can just click and select. Okay. And we were reading the documentations earlier, going through this, right? All this syntax and what are the types and everything. So you'll get here as well. So whenever you select any functions, see if I go and click somewhere out, hover on that, the details, whatever there in below, right, it has gone. Okay. So I'll just click on this in between. It will give you like, see, this has two parameters. You guys can see the screen, right? Was it small or should I zoom this?
It's proper.
Sorry.
Sir, we can see, sir.
Okay. So this is the function user. What you need to do, you need to give the username and the property. I mean, what details you want from that user. And the username will be a text. You see the type here? Username type is the text and property. See, these are the properties. Instead of, I'll show you here. It will be easy. So you see, these are the properties. Display name, email, first name, last name, middle name, status, city, country, state, phone number, and all this. So this is all the properties of any user. So when you logged in with your own profile, you have your own email address, you have your own first name, your own last name, middle name, your status, your address. So a person who is logged in from a different country will have their own address, own city, own country. So all these details you can go and get it. So anytime, any point of time we wanted to know the detail of some particular user. So this is what we will do. Yes, we'll use this function user, and let me try. Let's see what error it will give. Or will it work? Logged in user. You know, right? What is the type of logged in user when it's executed? The type is user, but the first parameter is text into this. But we are just seeing what will be the error. Even though it gives us Manoj. All right. And let me show. I'm converting this into a uniform string. just execute this. See, this is what it gives to us, right? If you just execute logged in user, so just feel free to stop me if you don't understand anything. I will explain you. So executing logged in user, it gave you the logged in user, I mean the name, and Manoj Sai, this is the name of this particular profile, and the type is user. Okay, and you see we are learning about this user function. So your user functions first have the username and the property, and the username is what? It's a text. All right. So the reason why this logged in user worked for this, because it gives the same thing. I mean, if there is any sort of issues, but in terms of typing error or anything, it will give the error, because and none of the username exists, and it won't work. So you can see here what I have done is I have taken the logged in user I have gave to this, and that logged in user I have converted into two uniform string. Okay, so output of this, it's become what? Text. You know all these functions, right? That was the reason why I was asking you to go through, go on, go on, go on. So at any point of time, we just use it. You guys know what exactly it does. See, earlier it was giving the type user. Now after converting into two uniform string, your type become text. So we have just converted the data type. And the reason why we have converted a data type, because your function need text in your first parameter, your username text. So this become text with your username, and we want the first name. So it gave Manoj. If you want first name, if you want last name, this is your last name, Sai. So similarly, you can fetch any of the details by using all different properties, and every property has some data. And okay, now this one thing is you will be thinking, okay, from where this is getting the data. So let me show you quickly. The place from where you can verify. So any user you create, that user will be here somewhere. Okay, so let me do Sai. So we're searching for Manoj Sai. This is the user, and all these details while using the user functions were coming. It will appear from this. This is the username, this is the first name, this is the last name. All right, so there are no details as of now, you guys can see, right? There is no other details apart from this, because this is a trial version. But when you have your own versions, I mean the full profile, you can go and edit your own profile. Now that option is not available. I cannot edit, or I cannot do anything. Everything is grayed out. I mean read only. You cannot have anything. So this is where the place where you need to go and update if you want it. And this update will give you update here also in terms of first name and last name. It's up to you. So we did gone through with the logged in user, we gone through the user, and let's see the conversions. Again, that's a two user conversion. So this is again the same thing. What it does, we have seen the conversions in past also, right? I mean 2 boolean, 2 and all this. So anything starts with 2, those are the actual conversions. And here what we want to do is, this is text. and we want to convert this into to user. So let me copy and execute here. So instead of doing this, let me do this. All right. So if I just execute this, double quotes, you see it give me this. This is type text. All right. And I'm converting this, my type text, into to user. See, this data type become user. You see earlier it was text, but it become user. That's what we want to do. So any conversions that happen, it can just change the data type. Here it also it's changed the data type. You see type become user. And just ignore this ID not found because obviously John dot DOE does not exist to this environment, right? So that's why it says ID not found, but it changed the data type. So this is what we are changing to user.
Reasonably.
Sorry,
Sir, could you go a little slow?
sorry, could you what?
Could you actually go a little slow, sir?
Oh, okay. You didn't got it anything? You want me to repeat?
No, sir. Actually, I feel you're going a little fast so for us to catch up your functions.
Oh, you guys didn't catch up any functions?
So the current one, which one you actually were teaching, that's a little confusing. If you could actually go the same thing.
Which one? To user?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
voice is big. To user, right?
Yes, sir.
See, the reason why I was a bit fast with this function because I thought you guys know already because we have gone through two conversions and all functions, right? You know the conversions functions, what we have gone through here. These are the conversions functions. We have gone through, we changed the data type to document, to date, to boolean. All these functions we have gone through, right? To integer, to string, to time, to uniform string. We have covered all these functions. So by now you guys at least needs to understand what are the conversion functions. Because, all right, so we did cover this conversion functions and what it is to user. This is again a conversion functions and conversion functions are very straightforward. We just type one thing and we just convert it. So this conversion function is to user. So what we want to do, we want to change a specific value into to user type. Earlier, any of the conversion functions which we were going through, what we were doing, your functions name the same thing, to date and time. So what we were doing, I mean the type, I mean the value which we were entering, right? We were converting into to date and time. That's what it does. We are only changing the data type. The value remains same, but the data type get changed, right? Here also does the same thing. We are doing to user and what it needs. To user needs a single value and that value could be any type. Either it's a text or anything, but it will convert your specified things into to user. So here we, as per the example, there's a dummy name, John.doe, and we want to convert this person or this name into to user. That's what we are executing here. And it's converted the value. You see, user, it has converted into to user. And type, you also see the type is user. ID not found, I was saying is because of this user does not exist into this environment wherever we are checking, right? User needs to be exist as well. If I try to do this to manoj.sai, Actually, this is the username. See, this is the username we are typing as a text. It converted into to user, and see, the type is user. Okay. And guys, these are the very basic thing what we are learning right now. And into the upcoming classes, I cannot go that much slow. Just a heads up for you. And the reason for this, we have much more contents to go through now. And our class session would be 35 hours maximum. So I need to wrap up everything into 35 hours. So that's what's the reason why I ask you to go through all the functions by your own and come up with any queries if you have, right? So still I stand on the same thing. I'll give you some queries. Oh, sorry, I'll ask you to go through. Okay. All right, just give me a second. My laptop, I need to keep it charging. Can you hear me?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I was saying, you guys needs to do much more efforts in terms of gathering all the informations, because we need to boost our speed, because it's a fifth class and we are still going with these functions. There are many things to cover. Okay. So I need to boost up also, because if we go with this pace, we'll not able to cover the entire Appian into 35 hours. So just feel free to stop me whenever you think you don't understand. I will definitely go and repeat it. All right. So this you got it right, to use a function.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So this is the other function, which is two people. And that's again the same thing. I mean, what we are doing here is we are converting a specific person into two people. So let me just do. Anyway, we can ignore these functions. We normally don't use it, but you can go through if you think you are confused with this, how it's work. So we just convert this into two people, and it changes the data type. And you see the examples, two people, one, and your username will give you the group and with your username. So, and again, all the convergence functions what we have gone through, we don't use apply. If you guys able to recall what we have learned in maybe a day or 2 days back. So while when operating on an array, it's not necessary to use apply with two people. So we did cover what is apply. and why we don't need to use apply for this type of functions. We have covered this already. So here is the function which is toGroup, and this is nothing but the same thing with the two documents and all. Earlier we have gone through two documents and all these functions. Now we are converting into toGroup. And I told you that everything has its own ID in Appian. Whatever we create, it has its own ID. So this will be your ID, and you know what is your ID, and you need to give the same ID and you convert it. That's how it will convert. And I'll show you some IDs. Okay, how do you go and check it? So this is the expression rule which I have created, and everything has its own ID. All right, I go click this more. Oh, the property is not there. All right, so here when I have opened this, there's the option for properties. Looks like there is some limitations. All right, so just ignore this. This is trial version, so there will be some limitations. All right, so yeah, what I was saying is everything has its own ID. And whenever we go and create a group, let me see, there must be some existing groups, right? So this is what your applications which you need to create. I told you how you want to create it, and you need to create your own expression rule to go and practice onto this. Okay, after this class, maybe before coming tomorrow, I mean, you guys, most of you people stays in US, right? So your morning, you guys needs to do some sort of assignment which I'll give you, which I'll give actually Prakash, and I'll ask him to pass this to you. So you need to go and create your applications. From applications, you need to create our own expression rule with your name and store it into your folder. All right, and I've also told you the parent folder which you need to use it. I hope you are noting everything down so that once you do it, it won't confuse you. Yeah, so I was just searching some existing groups if we have into this. All right, so these are all the groups which is existing. You see this? Let me just click any one of this and get the ID. So you see the ID 26. This is the ID 26. So that's the same thing we are doing here. We are converting ID into toGroup, and it will give you this type of result. So this is the documentation screen, and obviously it will not calculate any of the logic behind. It will directly convert. If I use this here somewhere, see, it says no permissions and group, where this one does not exist. Let me try to see this 26. Will it work or not? See, so one does not exist. It said some sort of no permissions, but it did convert. If you see the type get changing, and what we are doing here, we are just changing the data type and getting the result. So if your result does not exist, obviously it will show some error, but it will definitely change your data type. What is doing here? So 26, I already show you what is the name of the group. This is the name of the group, Iap Designers. All right. and it's ID, and I have directly checked some of the group which just exist into your UI, and you just use it. And what is group? The question should come into your mind, and how we gonna use it, right? So what is group does? Group will actually have your list of users. As of now, it has Manoj, Sai. I told you the examples earlier when I was briefing you about Appian, that how Appian works. I gave you the example of HR onboarding, if you guys are able to recall it. So HR onboarding is how does it work, how it's helped into an organizations. I have given you the very brief idea about it. So any of the applications what we are going to design, you see these are all the applications which Appian has built up for us. Car damage detective, human resource, vehicle management. So these all are applications which we need to design. And speaking for the group, what exactly the role of group will be? Every group will have own set of persons or people. So the group which we were seeing there here, let's say your HR onboarding, there is a different team called finance. So there will definitely not a single person into finance. There will be a multiple person. I mean, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoever is taking care. So let's say there is certain action we want to assign it to a group. So we'll use these groups. Your interface, right? Which we clicked on action. This interface. These are the actions from where we trigger the request. So now this is the starting triggering point. This is the triggering point. But when we go, oh my bad. Yeah. So when we go in futures, it's like we have triggered this request. So once you trigger the request, it will go and assign to someone. So that someone is the groups. That's how we are gonna use group. And that group will have multiple people into it. So the task which you will assign or the activity which the person needs to done, it's assigned to the list of groups, not to a single person. Because it doesn't make any sense we type 5 names into one. So we'll just assign a one group and that's it. So coming up to our functions which we were going through was people. All right, so two group I have showed you, two people, two users, a logged in user I did show you. Super user, what it does, let's see. Return the supervisor of the users if they have one. All right, and here is a supervisor which it will return. So supervisor, we have direct function. You can use directly supervisor, or you can use user function, which I have already shown to you. Your user functions have different properties to get it through, right? We pass username, and then we retrieve the property. There also you can type use a supervisor, or you can get directly this functions and try to execute. So if I try to execute this will give me the empty value because supervisor does not exist. So I'll not, okay, I'll type like this and let it give me suggestion. Okay, it needs the user info, which is text. We can still give the logged in user. It gives us null because there's no supervisor. This is empty. You see this, right? So any confusion so far?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we cover all this. Logged in is also we covered. Let's come to this is username taken. So just try to understand, okay, with this function's name. Half of the problem you will understand by default with the function's name. Consider yourself into a scenario where you wanted to know that Rachel is the name. Is it taken by someone? That's a question mark. Is username taken? So you need to verify, is it true or false? And whenever is a question mark, your data type become to Boolean because the output of question mark will be true or false. So is username taken? That's how they are saying. And what we will pass. Let's say is username taken. I need to give username. So we can give logged in user. And you know what logged in user give? It gives me true. Okay, now tell me what is the output of logged in user?
Star.
Yeah, that's true. So that logged in user is what profile we have used for logged in. So it will give your username, which is sai@something.com. That was a username, and that username become input for this is username taken. You see, this is a function. It requires one parameter. I can directly go and type manually hard code into double quotes. It needs a text, but instead I have chosen this to logged in user, a logged in user, and we are checking that the output of this, which is our username, is this user already taken? I mean, is this user exist? That also you can think of. So it says true. That means there is a user into this environment with that name. That's what it does. And there are many functions which is related to user. There's one more thing is user active? Again, it says true. So active and non-active is nothing but we have a property where if any user no longer needed, we can go and make them deactivate. I mean, we can deactivate the users. So that's what this function is user active is helping us out. So you can check it like, is user active into this environment? I mean, is he deactivated or activated? That also you can verify with this to user active, and you type the username. Logged in user gives nothing but the username, but the type becomes as user, but it takes the user type because it has the same output, and it gave us the result which is true false. True, because this user exists and it is active as well. Okay, so is user member of group? This is the other thing. Identify whether or not the user belong to a group. Username and group ID. You see, this is a syntax. This is the syntax. This is the username which we were giving as in logged in user, and that's the group ID. And you see this, right? Appian cannot show these things here because it needs to validate what we are validating. We are checking that your specified user, is it a part of particular group? I told you earlier that any group, what we will do with the group, a group will have the list of members, right? So what we are doing here, we are doing the same thing. We are checking for member into a group. That's what the function says. Is user member of group? Again, that's a question mark. So it will give us the Boolean result. And let's see here. All right, earlier we saw 26, right? 26, there was some group ID. So is user member of group? All right, check whether the user is member of group. So let me give this logged in user. And second parameter is what? Group ID. Group ID is group, the ID of the group. Let me give 26 directly. It did work. It says true. Okay, you getting it? And why it did it gives true. This is the group where we are checking for that particular user. And do you see Manoj Sai is a part of this group? You can see this right here. Iap Designer is the group name, and Manoj Sai, the user, is a part of this group. That is what we are checking. Logged in user will give you Manoj Sai. It will not give you Manoj Sai, it will give you this username, okay? But that's the user first name and last name. This is the value. So it will give you this. And 26 is nothing but the ID of your group. I showed you earlier also. 26 is the ID of the group. And you can click onto this, I mean the first open parenthesis, and you can get the descriptions, I mean the details, what type of values it needs. See, it needs username and group ID. We have given username, group ID, it shows true, false. If I give any random ID, it should give us false. This is the false, because we are asking him to verify into a group name, group ID 1. And again, we can do one thing, this will also work. 26 is the direct ID, we know it. But if you convert into two group, why we are converting into two group? Can anyone tell me? Rachel, Vidya, Monica.
To change
To
the
change. Sorry.
type from boolean to text or group.
No, 26 is not a boolean, right? 26 is integer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are changing it to group. Why we are changing into two group? Because the second parameter needs group. So we are changing into two group. 26. 26
That's
into
what.
two group.
To change the type from boolean to group.
No. The statement what you are saying, right? It's incorrect actually. So we are not changing into two boolean to group. 26
Okay.
is in boolean is true false. We are not changing true false into two group. We are changing 26 into two group. So that
Okay.
is nothing but an integer. It's not boolean. Boolean is the value which this expression gives us. Okay, so we converted 26 into this and it should work again. See, it gave you the true. This is the output. We are not changing the output, we are changing the input. And any confusion you have, right, just click onto this, because whatever parameter your function needs, you have to give it, right? If I want to eat 5 roti and dal and curd, and you just give me curd, I won't be happy, I won't be satisfied. So that's the same thing. This is the functions and these are the things which it needs. And what type of data it needs, it's also written. See, username, that's the first thing it needs. They have written text. So you know how you need to pass the value to this into double quotes. Double quotes takes as a text. Second thing, second parameter, that's a group ID. The type is also the group. And the ID of the group, they want the ID of the group. So we directly pass ID, which is 26. Ultimately, they just want the ID of the group. But if you pass the group name, by default, it will take the group ID out of it. So when you are converting 26 into a group, it become a group, but this Appian function will take the ID of it. That's why it was working with when we were passing integer 26, because that's nothing but the ID. But in all the case, you will not directly go and pass the ID because you will not aware of. So this function is done. Group Group is just like same as the user functions, what we have seen here. In user functions, we were passing the user name, right? And then we were fetching out the user property. So similarly, this is the functionality of group. You need to pass the group ID. 26 is the ID of Iap Designer group. And then there's a property. What are the result you want to fetch it out? Okay. So let me show you here. Group. I know the ID, that's why I'm typing 26. Okay. And what do we want? It should be in double quotes. I want to take group name and execute. It gave me Iap Designer text because name is always a text. And the property is also in text, whatever you want to define. So everything should be in double quotes. All right, you got it? So similarly, you can fetch out any of the property you want. Group name, last modified, parent, delegation, descriptions, ID. If you want to show me ID, so will give 26. So that's the ID of this group. All right. So this is again very straightforward. You just go with this all these parameters, the property when you have time after the class, and maybe your own specified time whenever you're comfortable. So we covered all this, and I'll just show you one more, and then we can wrap up the class. And remaining functions, you guys can go through this. Okay. Get distinct user. All right. So retrieve the user from a set of users and group. People array. So I cannot show you, or let me do one thing. So what it does is get distinct user. So I'll explain you theoretically how we need to use it. So this takes people array. This is your function. This is a data type people array. I mean, it needs a something which is type of array by default, because we are checking distinct users from the different inputs. So what we need, distinct value. Distinct value is what? Unique. So here we were going through this IAP designers. So IAP designer has one user, which is Manoj Sai. So what if the same user is part of the other group as well? Because there are many groups, right? It has general support. General support has this many users. See, all these things is read only by Appian. See this add members and all. We cannot go and add into their group because this is what we haven't created. All right, so let me do one thing. If I'm able to create a group, there are again lot many problems. Department. All right. forget about this. We can create it later because again there are a lot of limitations. We don't have full access, so it takes time to explore. Okay, so coming to this function is what it does. It gets the get distinct user. So I'll show you here with a single get distinct user. This is a functions. I need the list of users or group. So you can directly type the list of person into this. Directly type means into the double quotes. Okay, so if I just give a logged in user to this, you see this? It gave me a list. See what it does? It does, you type a list of peoples. I mean, I'll pass as an input Rachel, Vidya, Monica, all right, all your different Chinmay, all these different users to this group. And I wanted that, eliminate anything which is coming twice. So for now, I just called your name 4 times and all these names are unique. So it will give the output with all your 4 names. But what if when I'm giving some group? So let's see. Let me give a group. Okay. So what will I do? I'll change into to group and I know this 26. Okay. It gave me the same output. Why? Because I showed you earlier as well. The IAP group has one person, which is Sai. Okay. And if I go and add Sai to the same group again, definitely it will not work. But here what I can do is I can give multiple things. Okay. All right. Then also the value is same. All right. Let me do one thing. Just copy paste and keep this outside. You see this? 26 IAP designers, 26 IAP designer. You got the same thing twice. You're able to recall this, what I'm saying? Folks, you guys are there.
Yes, sir.
You are able to get it, right? What I'm trying to
Yes.
explain. Okay. So see, if I'm just only executing this to group to what is the value into 26? The value is IAP designers. So I've just created an array and passed the same thing twice. It gave me 2 times. Okay, but I passed the same thing into this. Okay, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to get the users from this. So who are the user into this group? There is only one user, which is Manoj Sai. So you see this, this will give, if I check into this, it will give Manoj Sai from the first. Again, it will give Manoj Sai from the second one. But both the user are same and this function is get distinct user. So it will eliminate if the same person will come multiple times and only give us the one value. So it has eliminated the second part, I mean the second value because that's the same thing and it gave us the unique value. So similarly, we can pass any of the, let's say here I'm giving 26 or here I'm giving 29. There's a different group. I don't know even does it exist or not. Okay, it exists and it has some people, I mean some users. See, these are the users, administrator, trial admin. So it gave me their value, but it will ignore anything which is coming more than once because it needs to give distinct value. So that is the functionality of this. So I guess only 4 functions are remaining now. It's already 8:15. So you guys can go and cover this. And what I'll do for today, anyway, you guys have credentials, I'll give you some assignments. which I'll pass to Prakash and I'll ask him to forward to you people. Okay? All right?
Yes, sir.
And you guys know, right, how to go and do all this? I show you already. What you guys need to do is just go and create an application with your name into this application. Once application is created, go to new, create expression rule. Okay, if you guys can write it, it's up to you guys. So go to create applications and create expression rule. And your expression rule, when you go and create, you need to save it somewhere, right? So create a new folder with your name and the parent folder which will be which I have created. So the parent folder will be this Appian practice. So I have created a folder called Appian practice. So this will be parent folder for all of you, but the folder name will change according to your name. And just click on create and create it. Once you create, you'll get this expression which is already there, and execute your assignment with the functions we have covered so far. Think of the logic. I'll give you some examples, I mean some assignments based on the functions we have covered till today. Okay, so I'll forward the assignments through Prakash. He will do the same. And that's it for the class for today, guys. Any questions for today?
No, sir.
Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.